What's up, everybody? I apologize for the abruptness of the music ending there. We're having some technical difficulties, so we didn't have the usual intro this week. We just had the thumbnail for the show, but I think that's appropriate. I want to welcome everybody to a special first time ever Tuesday night live episode of the Main Event Comedy Podcast. I'm Gene Jackson. Joining me as always, I think that's Wes Sears. I don't know. There's a young teenager who is taking over the camera of Wes Sears here. Who we got? Is that you, Wes?
I'm just gonna say I'm feeling a little bit shady tonight. So
See that, man? Sans beard. Look like you de-aged 15 years or more. Goodness gracious. You'd be getting carded if we were at the bar right now for sure.
I honestly thought I was gonna be carded when we
Unless,
started. So
unless you're an Aniston, I'm sure he would make an exception, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. And of course, also joining us is our other co-host, Mr. Tyler Fitzgerald. How you doing, Tyler?
Doing good. Well, yeah, doing all right. Not too bad.
Awesome. All
Love the
right.
ECW
Matthew
hat.
Glover's joining us. He said, I've always wanted to join a gang. Well, here he is. He's joined us. Gene Heyman in the house. Well, not exactly, but I figured I'd wear a little more appropriate hat this week than my usual Tennessee hat. So I saw this one sitting there, and I thought, how appropriate. After about an hour ago, I had saw a thing online that Paul Heyman's Hall of Fame speech is officially the most watched Hall of Fame segment in the history of the Hall of Fame across all platforms. 27 million people have watched Paul Heyman's Hall of Fame speech in one form or another. So, pretty cool. One of the greatest talkers in the history of WWE has been viewed by the most people. So I guess tonight we're here. We're not even really going to beat around the bush with any other topics or any of that. We're here. We're here to talk WrestleMania. We're here to talk Raw. But to lead into WrestleMania, we already mentioned it. Friday night, you had the Hall of Fame after SmackDown. What'd you guys think? We won't spend a lot of time on it, but what'd you guys think of the Hall of Fame?
I mean, you said everything. I mean, Paul Heyman. I mean, that's enough. I mean, it could have just been the Hall of Fame 2024 Paul Heyman. Just Paul. Let him go for an hour and a half. Ice on the cake. So, I mean, it was great overall. I mean, definitely, but Paul stole the show.
I agree. Yeah, it was pretty much the only thing I tuned in for was Paul Heyman. It definitely delivered. It was probably one of my favorite speeches of all time. He definitely towed the line on getting canceled a few times. He name dropped Brock Lesnar a few times. He used some choice words that they had to blur out.
Choice words to say the least.
But that's Paul Heyman. I thought it was really well done. It was very entertaining. And I watched the rest of it. I did stay tuned in until the very end. I loved Thunderbolt Patterson taking us to church. I thought that was, it was interesting. It was definitely interesting.
It was something.
Right, but I think those were the two most memorable speeches. But congrats to everybody. I mean, they all deserve to be in there in some form or another.
Also joining us along with Matthew Glover, our pal Ray Russell. Ray, good to have you along. Since you were around for the preview show where we kind of gave our predictions, you can kind of be here to see who was right and who was wrong. Shane Knowles may or may not join us at some point, folks. We're not sure, but if he is, we'll certainly tag him in and get his thoughts as well. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people complained, and I was initially like, me and my wife was watching a movie and we switched it over, and I was like, we'll miss all that, the stuff at the beginning where they're just talking to people before, and they're basically killing time, swapping over from SmackDown to the Hall of Fame. And then we turn it on, and here comes Roman Reigns, and I'm like, did this thing start at 8? Like, did we miss the rest of it? And I'm like, no, I guess we're starting with Heyman. And a lot of people complained about that, and I get it, but at the same time, overall, I'm kind of glad they did it that way. let Heyman come out where people still have the energy and their attention. Because man, some of those Hall of Fames in the past, they've done a better job of wrangling those now. From the Hillbilly Jim and Mr. T era, where they were just out there seemingly just at will. But a lot of those nights that had went on and on and on, by the time the headliner came on, the crowd was tired, and it didn't have the same feel, and they ran them short. So I actually liked Heyman starting it out. I think that probably worked well for us because I'm not gonna lie, I tapped out after Thunderbolt Patterson. I'm like, I got to work in the morning, man. I ain't got time. I went to bed. I didn't see any of the Rock shenanigans with. I did see him have Muhammad Ali's wife give him a belt. Jesus. So I did see that part, but I didn't see him turn his grandmother's induction into a promo on Cody or however that played out. But I'm sure it was great because
Yeah, it was all right. It was more toned down, but he did turn his grandmother's induction into a little bit of a promo.
because why not, right?
Yeah, he's
I
fully
knew.
committed.
Once I saw it was closing the show, I'm like, well, okay, we know what this is now. So I almost expected him to come out of the ring and attack Cody or some mess. But anyway, well deserved from Heyman, well deserved from everybody. So kudos. I the only thing I question, and I know that in chats, we kind of maybe question the Muhammad Ali induction, just the timing of it. It's like, why did you suddenly decide to put Ali in now, after all these years and now? But I guess my main thought as I'm watching that speech was like, did they decide to induct Muhammad Ali and then see the opportunity to turn this into a, hey, let's let her give The Rock a People's Champion belt? Or was Muhammad Ali inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame so that they could get his widow there so that she could give The Rock this belt? We'll never know, but here's a hot take right here. Hold on here. Let's see. Matthew Glover says, I didn't think Paul's speech was all that good. Just felt like a guy saying a lot of words he wasn't supposed to. Felt kind of disjointed for a Hall of Fame speech.
I think I disagree with that. I thought it was pretty solid and it stuck true to Paul Heyman's.
I love Tyler because Tyler's like, look, you disagree. I mean, I do too because it's like Paul Heyman, man. I still think about ECW. What was it? The One Night Stand when he came in like Eric Bischoff. He went at JBL.
Yeah.
He went at fucking Edge, and I will never forget. I love it because he said, "I got 2 words." These little things like Matt freaking Hardy.
Yeah, which was 3 words. But
and the whole time Edge like, that's 3. But dude,
yeah.
that's Paul Heyman though, man. Like, it was so good.
I mean, I like the speech. I could see where Matthew's coming from in some ways. I do think he overdid it with some of the, I think some of the language and some of the things he said. I know it's Paul Heyman and he's going to say some of that shit and all that, but at times it felt almost overdone to where it almost took away from it because they kept having to dump the audio, and they missed a couple of the F words, but they got most of them.
Yeah.
But, overall, I mean, I think it was representative of Paul Heyman. To me, the most disappointing thing is the only 2, and I understand they're on a time crunch and everything, but the only 2 ECW originals who got mentioned by name were the Dudleys and RVD. And, there was Dreamer, and yeah, you hugged Dreamer when he came out, but no shout out to Dreamer, no shout out to Todd Gordon. That felt weird, but
I agree 100% with the Tommy Dreamer comment. I do agree with
that. Because I was secretly hoping Dreamer was going to induct him. And when they announced Roman Reigns, I was like, okay, all right. If we're going to stick with the current storyline stuff, I get it, but I don't love it. But and he was fine. But yeah, I at least would like to have heard Dreamer and a couple of guys get a shout out, but it's not a big deal. So, and this is Ray under the Wrestling Memory Grade account. Supposedly Ali was picked for the WrestleMania 1 theme with the U.S. Express, the 40-year anniversary. supposedly, and I can see that, and I don't doubt that it's a fun coincidence, but you know, maybe nostalgia has overtaken me, but it felt like it didn't compare to the past stuff. Well, I mean, it's fair. That's your take, and we're not here to debate it. Everybody's just here to give their opinion. Paul's Hall of Fame speech was great. Brought the ECW field back to Philly. Paul is the GOAT, says Cody.
That's my buddy Cody. Yeah, thanks
There
for
you go,
watching.
Cody stepping up to second Tyler's opinion there. Could have said this the first time a person got in the Hall of Fame in the same room as someone that planned to murder me. Oh, all right. Well, that's a whole nother story. We won't go into that. But all right. So that gets us to night one. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. Bobby Slam says, who should be in the Hall of Fame next year, in y'all's opinion? That may be an upcoming episode we do, because this is going to turn into a 3-hour extravaganza if we get sidebarred into something like that. So, Bobby, stay tuned. We may do a show on that real soon. That sounds like a fun debate. Discussion. I already know. Spoiler alert: Wes here says Chris Benoit. Yes. And Tyler's going to vote for an early inclusion of Roman Reigns. And Ray says Mike Sharp, Hall of Fame 2025. Oh, okay. Absolutely. Me and Ray are having a lot of fun watching Mike Sharp in Memphis in 1985 cutting promos, and oh boy, you quickly find out why he never got a chance to do a promo in WWF back in the day. They just stick to doing the jobs. Okay, so night one, we kick it off with Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. What are you guys' thoughts of that match?
I thought it was a really good match, actually. It was one of my favorite matches from from night one. I thought night one kind of look who it is Goldberg.
Goldberg.
The night one, yeah, I thought the night one card kind of lacked a lot of really great moments or memorable matches, but I did think Rhea and Becky did a really good job. And I actually heard that Becky did that match
disconnected.
like she was actually under the weather. So I thought she did a great job. I thought Rhea did a great job, and I thought the outcome was correct. So yeah, thought it was good. I have no complaints about that one.
Yeah,
All right,
I
you're
agree.
welcome, Shane Knowles, to the show. Not to interrupt you, Wes, but I figured we'd acknowledge that it's not actually Goldberg. For anybody who's listening to the audio, if you tuned out, if they immediately tuned out when they heard it was Goldberg, come back. It's Shane Knowles. It's not.
No, I'm sorry. I like Bret Hart, so.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to hear what Goldberg has to say about anything ever. But anyway, sorry, Wes. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, man, I agree. I mean, it was a good opening match, and it was like me and Shane were talking the other day. I thought it was gonna be one of the better matches, if not one. And in my opinion, like I'm gonna go with Tyler. Absolutely was. It was definitely a good match. I like the different style that they had, because I think they only wrestled one time in NXT.
I think that's right.
I think it's only one time.
I don't.
And
yeah, they. I've lost track of NXT in recent years, so I don't know. But yeah, they didn't have a lot of history as far as being in the ring together.
So that was the first match just between them, and I thought it was great. And I mean, I thought it was a great opening to not one, because I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, I know we're gonna talk about it, but not one was the weak night. So.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a recurring theme as we run this down. A lot of people always point out that the one downside of these stadium shows is so much of the crowd noise goes up into the stratosphere, and you lose a lot of that. And I think there may have been some of that here, but I just think night one didn't give them a whole lot to really, really sink their teeth into. And while this match wasn't bad, it certainly wasn't what I was expecting it to be when you look at Rhea versus Charlotte last year and some of Becky's other matches. But, she was sick, as Matthew points out here. Rhea apparently had a panic attack before the match too. Did a great job considering. Ray says Rhea started the match slow. Was kind of bored. Like Greg Valentine took some time to get going, but it was all right by the end. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. But it was a good way to start the show. Looking down the card, I don't know a better option to have started, night one. Shane?
Well, the bar has definitely been raised just based off last year's Charlotte and Rhea match, while also matches of Becky Lynch's resume. So to kick that off, it needs to be, as the kiddos say, a banger. And I thought it was good, pretty good, but not at their best, whether it be Rhea's panic attack or Becky Lynch's well documented issues with, strep throat and whatnot. But even under those elements, I thought it was fine. And the right person went over in the right way with a riptide into the corner, then finishing her with a big one right in the middle of the ring. So, I mean, all the elements working against them, I thought they still put out a pretty good match. Not at the caliber we were expecting because of the unforeseen circumstances.
Right. I agree with all that. Ray says, "Did you guys see the awesome chair shot from Liv on Rhea at Raw? Threw it at her head." LOL. I did not, but we'll get to that. Hopefully we'll get to Raw.
Yeah, bro. She's been playing 2K24. Like
she's like, let's show them the throwing thing here they got going on now.
We do it here too.
So what match 2? You guys are going to have to refresh my memory because I had planned to have a match listing here, but this all fell together last week. It was the ladder match. What was second?
Ladder match.
For both sets of tag team titles. Mm-hmm. So that was a fun aspect of it. You had the titles had been together for a while, so they hung up both sets of belts, and what was it? The Austin Theory and Grayson Waller snatched the SmackDown titles. Pretty good bit ahead of time before they finally got around to the Raw titles. The only redeeming, I don't know, it wasn't a bad match. I don't know. I haven't watched enough of it lately to give a shit about any of the tag teams involved, really, besides like Miz and R-Truth. So it's one of those things where you think, well, that would be fun, but they probably aren't going to do it. But then you got to remember, like, oh, this isn't the old regime. They probably are and will and did do it. So I think that was a great choice. It's cool to see R-Truth win a title at WrestleMania for all the fun and humor he's provided fans. He's one of the veterans of WWE. You take a look right now, he's one of the most experienced guys on the roster. So that's pretty wild.
Well, I was happy for the Miz too. So,
yeah, oh yeah.
He's done it. So, but
yeah, he got the main event. He got the main event, the one in Atlanta, I think.
Yes, is that the one that when The Rock
Yeah, it was. It's him and Cena for the belt, and The Rock was involved. And
R-Truth is one of the most, in my opinion, and people might see his gimmick as silly, but R-Truth to me is like one of the most underrated, underappreciated guys on the entire roster because he's, to me, like a lot of the wrestling humor is not very good, but R-Truth to me genuinely is funny as hell.
He got tagged in the ladder match.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, that was fantastic, man. Like, it was just...
I'm glad Tyler...
That was great.
I'm glad Tyler touched on that because you need people like R-Truth on your roster where not everything is, Cody Bloodline dead serious to a degree. He's comic relief, but he can also work. But, you need guys like that on your roster to shake up the monotony because the old adage, wrestling is a circus, and he certainly stands out as something different.
Ray said, ladder match was super underwhelming, super disappointed. My brother called me post pay-per-view and had the same takeaway. Curious your guys' thoughts. And I think we're all kind of on board with that. It was, it wasn't, when you think about the Money in the Bank ladder matches that used to be a part of WrestleMania every year and some of the, great spots and things that took place in those, I don't think it lived up to that. But I don't know that it was really supposed to. So,
Well, you mentioned this too, Gene. They captured those SmackDown titles a good, 7-8 minutes before the actual conclusion of the match. So it was almost like we had the 1, 2, 3, but we, kind of sort of the match continues. It's a little confusion seeing Waller and Theory celebrating as SmackDown champions for all of like 5 seconds before it's like, oh, you got a shot at these other belts too, remember?
Yep. They
Right.
didn't do a good job explaining the steps. Loved both teams that won. That's a fair assessment. Uh, agree with Matt Glover. They never mentioned both sets of belts would be hanging until right before the match.
That
So
caught me
yeah,
off guard as well. Yeah, it was weird. It was
yeah,
a little bit weird. It's like 2 title matches in one match, so it was kind of
And I
odd.
thought the finish would have been maybe on one ladder, someone's getting the SmackDown title simultaneously as someone is getting the Raw belts. They could do the stare down, title unification possible. But the stop start thing was a little weird.
and I kind of wondered if once you had one set of belts hanging and you had two belts up there, is there the possibility that two people from two different teams each grab a belt and it's
Mm-hmm.
like
Now they're the team.
they're the tag team champions now? What do we do? And you play with that for a couple of weeks, which
I
could
mean,
have been fun, but
Battle Bowl under Triple H. We could do.
I mean, it was just weird. They were like lifting the belts, like they were getting their P code out in December as well.
yeah,
I mean, I didn't like that at all, and I do agree. I mean, we were as soon as I saw them split up, I said, okay, so somebody's winning this one, somebody's winning this one. Got you. Like,
yeah. And Matthew says they didn't explain if the team that won the first titles could also take the second. So yeah, there was it had its issues, but a ladder match with 6 teams is prone to do that. So what are you gonna do? Where did we go from there?
I was looking at actually.
I'm glad somebody's actually pulling it up, looking at it.
Somebody's doing some research.
Was it
If
we went to it was it the Rey Mysterio and Andrade versus Santos Escobar and Dominic. I'm pretty sure that was the next one.
I think so.
That's
Matthew's
the
saying
level we were at.
Usos, but
Usos, maybe.
let's do the Dominic match first.
that's what they're with.
Yeah. So all right, I was gonna say you go west, but I think you just did.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
honest.
So, are there any thoughts? I mean, because like I say, we don't need this thing to last 2 hours. We didn't got to go deep on every match. Any thoughts on that match?
Coolest part was I'm a Cowboys fan, but the coolest part to me of that whole match was Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson coming out and helping. But I mean, it was more of like a filler match, and it had that fun moment. And I feel like that's all it's really remembered for, to be honest.
Yep. No one will remember anything except Lane Johnson and the now retired Jason Kelsey. Get it right, Shane. Coming out of the crowd. I did love the fact that they wore luchador masks adorned with the Eagles logo. Questioning who is that, and Pat McAfee says those are the Blue Jean Boys. And I will say this for those who think not everybody in the NFL is an athlete. Jason Kelsey was a center. He's got no shirt on, blue jeans and work boots, and he jumped flat-footed over the top rope. I mean, he probably got a little career there. I kept thinking, how many Swifties are going to tune in tonight too because of Kelsey was involved in night 1?
Exactly. Setting up so this is Ray setting up a Carlito turn, but it clearly wasn't happening when they could showcase Jason Kelsey, failing to realize 90% of the crowd wasn't from Philly. Yeah, because my thought on that as well is, number one, you've been foreshadowing this Carlito turn. Number two, I had kind of hoped, since Dominic lost to his dad last year, he wasn't going to lose to his dad 2 years in a row, and that maybe the heels were going to pull off the win here. But once the freaking football players show up, we gotta roll with that. But yeah, I was hoping Carlito was going to turn and Dominic was going to pin his dad and be a good moment in his career. But Matthew says, I love some Jason Kelsey. I didn't give a shit. I was just like, who's this guy that looks like he should be wrestling in freaking Boaz running out here in fucking WrestleMania?
Hey, I gotta give respect.
Xander's is like, oh, that's one of them Kelsey guys. And I was like,
gotta give respect to Jason Kelsey. And as a Cowboys fan, like I said, I hate the Eagles, but I do like Kelsey.
Yeah. Nick Abbott version 2.0 equals Jason Kelsey. Good call,
Hey,
Ray.
That's a good comparison.
So if we're going to call the Uso match next, I don't know that I've ever been more disappointed in a WrestleMania match in 40 freaking WrestleManias, dude. Like, I'm still dumbfounded by this, and not to call Tyler out on the carpet because he's the one that pointed this out in our group chat, but like, Tyler had said beyond the main events of both nights, the match he was most looking forward to was the Battle of the Usos. And it did not deliver on any possible level. Like, there was nothing good about that match. Nothing. Even the entrance with that dipshit Little Wayne was horrible. Greatest rapper of all time, my ass. Come on.
It was a
You
Young
talking about
Bucks.
the Young
It was
Bucks
a Young Bucks
match?
match.
Oh no, the Usos. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, might as well have been.
Super kicks left and right. That's really all it was.
no storytelling, just a random
Other than
fucking
that weak little
live show.
Yeah, a little bit of like
handshake at
call
the
it-
end, you know,
yeah,
that
call it
you knew
truce.
wasn't going anywhere. Yeah, Ray told us it'd be the piss break match, and I didn't want to believe that. I knew it's not going to be good, and it's still underdelivered. I mean, I had high hopes for it just because, I mean, they've been involved in one of the best stories that WWE's told in years, the bloodline all the way back through the Sami Zayn stuff and all that. You know, Jimmy and Jay had a huge role in that. You know, I mean, people now want to kind of look back on it, and it's, you know, Roman Reigns gets most of the credit, but man, Sammy and Jimmy and Jay carried a lot of those segments. You know, I ain't gonna say that Reigns and Heyman didn't have, you know, their part too, but you know, they more than carried their weight. But man, that was just a stinker all the way around, and it didn't do anybody. I mean, in my opinion, I said this on the pre-show that we did. Jimmy needed that win because Jimmy's just turned into Roman's flunky slash the other Uso. Jay's gotten wins. He's established himself as main event Jay Uso. So I thought, hey, a win at WrestleMania could kind of, you know, boost Jimmy up, maybe, you know, make something of him besides just being the fall guy of the bloodline. But was sorry as the match was, and then the fact he lost on top of it, like, where's Jimmy now? Because I don't even know if the bloodline is even a thing at this point. It don't appear to be. So what? Now what?
Yeah,
Jobber on SmackDown?
It'll be interesting. Yeah, well, Triple H said Roman's going on a new story, so we'll see. I don't know how they're involved.
Matthew says it's hard to understand how bad this match was. It's like the 1% outcome if you polled all wrestling fans. Yeah, I mean, I would say universally that's going to be considered the biggest disappointment of WrestleMania across both nights. But hey, can't win them all, I guess. Who was next?
It was. This was another really great match. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi versus Damage Control. What's there to say?
Yeah, I mean, it almost just kind of felt like a showcase match for Bianca and Jade and
Right.
and Naomi, because you know, Damage Control is just kind of there now that they've disassociated with Bayley. But it was a good match. It was funny because until the finish, and I don't know that Tyler and Wes will appreciate this, but I know Shane and Ray that's in the chat. It reminded me of the Great American Bash 1990 when you had Elegante out there on the apron in the 6-man tag, but nobody would tag him. Like, they were going around the world not to tag him, and I was like, is she even going to get tagged into this match at all? And then of course she comes in, and you know, and the finish goes well. But up to that point, I was like, boy, she's getting the old Elegante treatment. Like, there she is, look at her, but God, don't let her in the ring. But yeah, they've figured out a finish because I don't even think Elegante even tagged in that match at all at Great American Bash 90, and we found out for good reason later. Well, that's
well, I used it as an opportunity to flip to the Alabama basketball game, admittedly. So I actually didn't watch much of the actual match.
And I'm usually the one dumping on the women's matches, so now I feel a little better. All right, moving on.
We're moving on to this is a big talking point here. Intercontinental Championship match, Gunther, Sami Zayn.
I will 100% take this conversation over because that was fantastic. And what I mean by that is Gunther had a fantastic run as Intercontinental Champion. Sami Zayn has been inching many times. I mean, going against Roman, yeah, he got the tag team titles last year, but I also think it's more of a benefit for Gunther in the future because I think we can see him competing for a world championship. I thought it was a good match. I thought it was an emotional match. I love the camera views when they're going like in their entrance, and he's running into people and Chad Gable, and then Kevin Owens is right
Yeah.
there. Like, dude, I was like, let's go, because I mean, I love what they're doing now with that. I thought it was fantastic, and I thought that was the right choice. I think it's Sammy's time. Let him carry it for a little bit. You know.
I can,
Tyler?
I can see, yeah, I can see. I'm torn on it. Um, I don't think it was a terrible decision. At the same time, I think my biggest this hadn't happened yet on night one, but I think my biggest thing about it was they ended like two historic title reigns in one weekend, like Roman and Gunther, and that was probably my only gripe about it. But I do agree with Wes. Like Gunther is like he's outgrown the Intercontinental Championship. Like there's not a whole lot more he can probably do with it that he hasn't already done. So he's probably ready for that main event step. Now, when that comes, I don't know, because obviously you throw him in a storyline with Cody right now. Cody's not going to lose that belt for a little while, and obviously you have the Rock whenever Rock comes back. So the Cody's got to have something to bridge the gap between now and whenever Rock comes back, if he really is leaving for a little bit. Um, so I don't think Gunther's that guy. So I'll be interested to see what Gunther does right now in the time being. But obviously he's ready for that main event step. Sammy's been pretty over for a while, so it was cool to see him get that nod. But I think my biggest gripe was just that title reign and Roman's title reign kind of ending in the same weekend. But then again, it's a whole fresh new WWE, so no better way to start fresh than to you know just end it, which is fine. It's just not my personal preference.
Shane?
As if the match in Montreal last year against Roman Reigns didn't tell me enough, after seeing this Saturday, I have an odd comparison. I think Sami Zayn is a little bit like a modern day Mick Foley. Not with the thumbtacks, not with the garbage and the violence, but I mean this. He doesn't have the physique of a pro wrestler. As my father would say, he doesn't look like he has a muscle on his ass. He doesn't look like a pro wrestler. But much like Mick Foley, he makes people believe. He connects with people and they get behind him. And he's going to be in that underdog role, I think, even as the champion going forward. I thought this was the first match on night one that really stirred some emotion, that really got you into this is WrestleMania. This, especially coming off that women's match, which you've noticed, I didn't say a word about it. Less said, the better. This is WrestleMania, the showcase of the Immortals, and Sami Zayn and Gunther put on a good one. I was worried for Gunther's health though, because when he took that brain buster, if you in real time and on the replay, that's 6'5", 297 crashing down on Sami Zayn's shoulder with his neck. And if you notice, they went to the finish real quick after that, and long after Sami Zayn's whoa celebrating. Gunther still on the outside holding the neck. I don't know if that's a great sell job or if he got quite a stinger, but I'm glad he's okay going forward.
Yeah, I'm glad that that's out of Sammy's regular repertoire on a steady basis. Just pull that out for WrestleMania because you probably don't need to pull that out too often. My take on all that is this: I'm a big fan of Sami Zayn. Back to the El Generico days on the Indies and Ring of Honor and everything. It was a pretty good match. I didn't love it as much as a lot of people did. I think it was the match of the night, nonetheless, for night one. My only gripe about it is I wish it would have had a better build up to it. Sammy wins this freaking multi-man match. Just what was it? 3 weeks before WrestleMania, 2 weeks before WrestleMania, whatever it was. So you got this guy that's been Intercontinental Champion for 600 and something days. You throw this match together 2 weeks ahead of time, and Sammy ends this record reign of his just kind of out of nowhere. And to me, this almost felt like a consolation prize. Like, hey, Sammy, we remember what you did in Montreal, and it sucks we couldn't put the belt on you there. So, we'll do it here. we ain't got much going on tonight anyway, as far as baby faces go. So I don't know. I didn't hate it, and I like Sami Zayn. I'm happy he's champion, but like I just really think if they could have took that story, and especially this whole stuff with him and Chad Gable and Gable's trained him all that, if you'd have stretched that out an extra month or something to kind of put some steam behind it, it would have meant more. But you know, 666 days. I mean, geez, it was time to wrap that up with Gunther and figure out something. And Sammy's as good a person as any to end it, but I just wish he would have had a better build. But that's nitpicking. Matthew says best match of the weekend. I thought Gunther should win, but love to see Sammy take it. Ray says after 666 days, I expect Gunther to kick out of a few more moves. I presume Gunther is off to a higher level. Both of those are fair, and Shane may be on to something. Who's to say that that wasn't the finish? Maybe he should have kicked out of the brainbuster, and he took that bump a little harder than they intended, and we went ahead and wrapped it up. But anyway, match of the night for night one, nonetheless. Even though I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, and emotional. What we got next?
The tag match, I think, was after that. It was the biggest tag match in WrestleMania history. Billed as that. Roman Reigns and
Build
Rock.
is that.
Yeah, Roman Reigns and Rock
He was-
against Cody and Seth Rollins. Yeah, it was billed as that. Now I don't think it lived up to that, but we'll get to it.
I'm going to take lead on this one. Oh, sorry.
Oh, take the lead, please.
I want to take the lead on it. First of all, that biggest tag match ever. As they did the narration with Michael Cole as an 18-year-old going to WrestleMania 1, I couldn't help but think, without Mr. T's involvement with Hogan, with Piper and Orndorff, there might not be a big WrestleMania main event. We might not be sitting here on this podcast talking about a 40th rendition, one that still, for the magnitude, 40 years later holds up. This one was big, but I get it. Gene's been in the business too. Everything has to be billed as good, but I think this is 7 straight WrestleManias now. It's the biggest WrestleMania ever. It's become Tony Schiavone, the greatest night in the history of our sport. I thought it was good, but this is an old adage. They went 48 minutes. From the time Cody Rhodes' music hit as the first entrance to the bell, 1 hour and 6 minutes in the ring. And I guess with The Rock not wrestling on Sunday, they wanted to maximize every ounce they could get out of him. I did think The Rock's entrance was one of the most badass entrances I've ever seen, with the Sub-Zero Mortal Kombat, final boss initiating, final boss complete, music hits, just like the final song on Guitar Hero 3. We come through the fire and the flames to the big Brahma Bull setup, the silhouette. That was cool. But I just wonder, this is nitpicking, 48 minutes, could you have not have told their story in the tag in 20 to 24? Because it seemed to me like that live crowd, they were burnt out for a long portion of that match. And it was like, just get us to the finish. And you didn't want that with this tag. That tag should have been white nuclear heat from the moment that they rang the bell to they ended. I mean, they went outside and brawled for about 7-8 minutes, then came back in the ring for almost a half hour.
That's the part that blew my mind. It's like we break off into this brawl through the crowd because we're in Philly. I assume that's why we felt the need to do that. But to then come back and and break it back into a regular tag match, it's like, what? Why? Like, why would you not do that? Lead that to the finish. But yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen a tag match break out into a 4-way out fight all through the crowd, and then it breaks back down to just a regular tag. That was so bizarre. But
I just felt like that whole. I just felt like the whole match lacked a lot of energy, and I went into Sunday thinking that the crowd, like maybe this crowd, like really doesn't give a damn about Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes hit the crossroads on Rock. I mean, obviously, night 2, I proved to be very wrong on that. I think it was just the match as a whole. But Cody Rhodes hit the Rock with the crossroads, and the crowd's not even counting along with him. Like, normally they're 1, 2, and then mad when he kicks out. But it was like silence. But it wasn't just like that for Cody Rhodes. It was like it for pretty much everybody. Like, they were hot when they first got in the ring. There was even some Rock chants. But yeah, I mean, the crowd was just dead. And I have a friend who was actually in the crowd there for night 1. He claims it's because they were all cold.
I was going to say, I think it was because people were cold.
It's
Yeah,
fair.
it's like, but this was like all the hype for night one, and I just feel like the crowd had a large portion of, or a large played a large part in how I felt about the match because they, they just couldn't give a crap. So it was like, dang, this feels kind of flat. And there was no bloodline interference, which was very surprising. Being like a no disqualification type match, I was expecting some
Hmm.
bloodline shenanigans as always, but there wasn't. It was a clean finish.
Which to me felt like it was okay. So this tomorrow night's title match hinges on tonight's tag team match, and if they win, then it's bloodline rules and anything goes, and there can be interference. So it seems like to me to illustrate the advantage of bloodline rules and what this could mean to Cody, you needed to demonstrate that by having the bloodline interfere because, as Ray points out here, 45-minute tag match where The Rock changed the rules as the bout went on, basically made the entire match pointless since Rock could have done whatever he wanted on night two, win or lose, apparently. Um, so, yeah, you illustrate the consequences of it by having them interfere and win in just an over the top cheating way. So that now there's a doubt going into like, well, fuck, if they can do whatever they want, they weren't even supposed to do what they wanted, and they still won the night. There's no chance Cody wins tomorrow night. But I feel like that was all done because the way that match ended, I told my buddies, I was like, well, this is all building to Rock and Cody now, which I had already said that on the podcast because of the way those segments on Raw went. You just kind of cut Roman out of the picture, and it's like, well, this is all focusing on Rock and Cody at this point, and night one sure showed that.
I want to bring up one more point about what one of our listeners, Ray, just pointed out. I thought Rock admonishing the official 4, 5, 6 times in the tag, they did it in the wrong match. I would have saved that for the title match on Sunday. You better not count to 3. You better not let Roman submit with the title on the line. That would have been the heightened with the bloodline winning the night before with now we're going to exert that TKO power. He does it Saturday. There's none of that Sunday night when they absolutely could have. That was bizarre.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about that when we get to that match because, yeah, we'll circle back to that here when we get to the main event on night two because I think one word that Tyler said a moment ago to me really sums up night one, and when he said flat, like most of the finishes felt flat. The combination of crowd response and just the timing of a lot of them felt weird. Like, just because of, I guess, WrestleMania finishes you've seen in the past, or, and don't get me wrong, there was plenty of everybody kicking out of finishers and that WrestleMania, you know, look that you get every time somebody kicks out of the third finisher or whatever. But just some of the finishes came at what felt like odd times and just felt flat. Like the whole night, once it was over with, we were all just kind of sitting there. I was like, that whole night just felt flat. Like nothing about that felt like WrestleMania. And I don't want this to seem like we're four guys on a podcast shitting on WrestleMania because everyone's like, well, they made $80 million. They know better than y'all. You go run a show, and a couple of us have. But I'm just for all the hype. I haven't been this excited about a WrestleMania in a long time. And coming out, and last year was the exact opposite. Last year, night one, in my opinion, was awesome, and you left out of night one like, yeah. Night two, you left feeling like somebody shot your fucking dog, and you just want to be like, yeah, that
Not,
sucked.
not me,
That
not
was a
me, but I
parting
can
shirt.
understand why.
Well, the Roman Reign lovers, I guess, went home happy, but I'm talking about from not the fan of I'm a fan of Roman perspective, but from a stadium full of people who that's how you end the show.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, it's like
they were
you let
pissed.
the air out of the place as Cody sits there. And I do like how they managed to completely recreate Cody moving right into the exact spot in the ring that he was in when he lost last year at WrestleMania. Once he got pinned by The Rock, he rolled over and got
Mm-hmm.
like somebody was directing him, like, there, perfect. There's the shot. Now, if somebody just throw a rubber chicken, we got last year all over again. Okay. So Tyler's got a supporter here, it looks like, Dustin Burcham. He's a friend of the show. Matthew says, same. Seemed like men the finishes seemed early, but could be strategy. After a point, it had to be strategy, but it just felt odd. I didn't watch the press conference on Saturday night. I saw the one Sunday night, but Tyler had put in the group chat like Rock just spoiled night 2.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
nobody made a fuss about that. So every little nitpicky thing, people get online and point out every little thing, like the watches that Cody gave the guys and all
Mhm.
that shit. But you're the only person who pointed that out to me. Like nobody else made mention of it, which I find completely bizarre.
we need a just quick little. I won't stay on this, but like quick little thing is if we're gonna have these little post show scrums, we need to decide are you gonna be in character or are you not gonna be in character? Because Roman come in there and kicked the woman out for not even acknowledging him when he walked in the room. So obviously he's in character. And then Rock comes out here and Rock is like the nicest dude ever. He wants to take all the questions. And then he's like, we totally decided to pivot and give the fans what they wanted, and that's Cody finishing the story. And I'm like, what? Why am I watching tomorrow? I mean, I figured that's going to happen, but like any little bit of hope, like any little bit of me thinking like, wow, maybe Roman does win tonight is gone. Like obviously, Brock just told me that Cody finished.
Yeah, that's so strange. Like I see it maybe after night 2 to some degree, but like when you got 2 nights and you get Dwayne at the end of night 1 instead of The Rock. When you still got another night to hype, and he's out there, as Dwayne, and he's all nice, and like you say, he's basically spoiling night 2. It's like, what are y'all doing? Like, it's Tony Khan
Do
shit,
you,
right?
do you remember when I brought up about 3 weeks ago about The Rock apologizing to the people in Salt Lake and wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like, and that seemed to be a theme the whole weekend. We alternated from I'm in character to I'm out of character, all the way to the very end. Pat McAfee playing heel. We'll get to the night too, but playing heel on commentary. All for Roman Reigns at the end of the show. Very serious. Congratulations, Cody. Great job. I'm like, can we? Michael Keaton doesn't stop in the middle of the Flash and say, I'm not Batman. I'm not Bruce Wayne. I'm Michael Keaton. I'm a guy whose real name is Michael Douglas, but since there was another Michael Douglas, I took the last name Keaton. Anyway, can they not
Yeah.
stay in character throughout? Because I kind of lose investment when Rock goes from the final boss, you big mother, and it's like, hey, I'm Dwayne, and I love the WWE, and I'm actually rooting for Cody because I knew his dad. Like, stop.
Yeah, yeah, they got to get a handle on that. And it felt weird to me in the middle of night 1. I think it was during night 1, or maybe it was during night 2, or they may have showed it both nights. I don't know. But there was a commercial for a WWE documentary about WrestleMania behind the
Yeah,
curtain. I'm like, we're doing this during the show?
it
Like,
drops
what?
tomorrow.
What are we
Yeah,
doing? Like,
yeah, it had like the whole thing. Like Rock's like, yeah, like when the fans say something, you got to listen to them, and it's like in the middle of WrestleMania.
Yeah, I cannot believe it. We're going to show you the pivot and why we had to do it. What?
I
You
mean, I
should have had
understand
Triple
that.
H going, so this is why Cody wins, and he just goes off.
I understand that we're in a different era of wrestling now, but I mean, it'd be like if you're watching a movie and right in the middle of the movie they stop and the director's like, "Well, tune in tomorrow and we'll let you know why John Wayne shot all the Indians at the end of this one." It's like, all right, well now we know. Never mind. Yeah, you got to stay in it all the way through. But anyway, Dustin Burcham says, "I'm just happy to love wrestling again. The Triple H era has been awesome. It mostly, I'll say mostly. Um, there's a few rough spots, but overall, it's a lot better than the Vince McMahon era to some degree." And Matthew said, talking about the scrums, I hate the word scrum, but they took this from AEW. Like AEW, they seem to be letting the guys do whatever they want. And that's one thing that, if there's anything that needs to kind of be left over from Vince, is there's certain areas of the business where they don't need to do anything they want. There needs to be some hard, fast rules like, hey, this is a WWE program. You need to be the character. We don't need Colby Lopez out here talking about, we need Seth Rollins out here talking about the show. So I hate people that drive slow, but I hate people that speed up and slow down more. Make a choice. Fair enough. I get that. Good or bad, at least the Triple H era makes sense. It's pro wrestling for the most part. I agree. We're definitely heading in the right direction, but it's also like, yes, it's mostly pro wrestling, but being out of character and saying we made a pivot, right in the middle of the damn show where we ain't even really seen what exactly the pivot's going to result in.
Right.
Feels a little wonky to me, but we
Could have
won't dwell
saved that
on
preview for Monday Night Raw or something.
it. Exactly. Show it after the show's over with, maybe. But definitely not in the middle of the damn thing. But anyway, night 2.
Night
Here we
2,
come.
McIntyre Rollins.
It's a little warmer outside, so the fans are a little happier, apparently. What a great way to start the show off, though. I got to admit, I was super psyched because, honestly, and I never in a million years thought I'd ever say this in the past, but I was probably the match I was second most hyped for was this match. And I've never been that hyped for a Seth Rollins match, and especially not a Drew McIntyre match ever in my life. And then, oh yeah, and Matthew pointed out Stephanie opening coming out was a choice. So that was interesting to see Stephanie McMahon out there. Triple H made sure to put her over in the post-show press conference, but
And by the way, with Stephanie opening that show, did they not really hammer the point home that this is Triple H's time? No more. I mean, that felt like by the end of the Cody match, we were being hit on the shovels. Like, we got it, dude. It's the
Yeah,
Paul Levesque era.
they've done that a lot. They did it. Even Paul Heyman did it at the Hall of Fame. And I put it in the group chat. I was like, I appreciate what Triple H has done, but we need to stop. He needs to stop putting himself over like 5 times this weekend. Like we got it at this
yeah,
point.
let's not get too self-congratulatory because one thing about it, I mean, nothing wrestling fans like more, or people in general, not just wrestling fans, but I mean, they love the first opportunity they get to start tearing somebody down because there's a time that people just love the hell out of some Tony Khan, and he went out there and made it very clear that this was my huge announcement and this and that, and now people love nothing more than to stick it up his ass. So if Triple H isn't careful. Of course, he made a point to say in the press conference that this is our era, not my era.
Well, and
But
there's the biggest example of dropping character. I heard him referred to as Triple H 4 times, Paul Levesque 7 times. Make a choice on which one we're going to know you as. I would personally like it to be Paul Levesque because that's what he is. And if there ever is anything where he has to come back, not wrestling, but going to be involved in the portion, he could say, "This ain't Paul Levesque. This is Triple H." That might get a pop. But when you're being referred to as simultaneously in the same show, I don't know.
and then the guy, God, what's the guy's name? The guy that always hosts the press conference. He always introduces him
Byron
as
Saxton.
Paul. Yeah, Byron Saxton. Paul Triple H Levesque, which to me sounds even worse. Like like you said, pick one. We can't do all of them.
It's like the cover of the Thunder in Paradise VHS. Terry Hulk Hogan Balea. Like,
That has never not made me laugh anytime I've Harry Hulk Hogan.
It should go by Triple Paul.
Yeah, we'll narrow it down to that one of these days.
Hunter Levesque.
So, all right. So, who wants to take the lead on Rollins versus McIntyre?
I'll do it. I thought it was a really good match. Actually, I really enjoyed the match. I was really happy actually when Drew ended up winning it by the end of it. I definitely did not see what was coming next, but as far as the match goes, I mean, it was pretty good. I mean, Rollins always puts on great matches, regardless of how stupid I think his character is. He puts on great matches all the time. McIntyre's probably doing the best work of his career because, like you, I couldn't have given a shit before, and I actually like him now. So, but yeah, I was happy for Drew, and then Drew wouldn't leave the ring. He got up on there and he started holding the belt in front of Punk, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty funny. And then Wes had told me before that he had the thought in the back of his mind that Punk isn't as hurt as he's letting on. So then when Punk like starts beating him up with his brace off and all of that, it's like, oh, and then Priest music hit, and I'm like, oh, now this is a way to start WrestleMania. Like, last night was pretty flat. Like, we're gonna start this thing pretty hot. Yeah, and then Priest comes out, wins the belt, and I'm like, that is very interesting. I still, I'll be very interested to see where they go with that. So, yeah, solid opening. That felt like WrestleMania.
I mean, I have to agree. I mean, I think the ending was definitely what set the mood for Mania Night 2 for sure. Because even that. I mean, you got CM Punk. He's announcing, he's commentating, you know, during the match, and then Drew wins, big deal. He goes to his wife, shows the title, and then like Tyler said, Punk jumps in, starts beating the hell out of him, and then here comes Money in the Bank, Damian Priest. It was a good match, and even Seth, even kind of showed his respect to Drew after the match, at the end, and I think it was way better in my opinion starting out Mania 2 than Mania 1. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Shane?
As much as I put over the Rock's entrance, I don't know what the HE double hockey sticks is up with Seth Rollins coming out like Elizabeth Banks from the Hunger Games. Thank you, Liberace. I think it was Michael Cole saying Punk saying that Liberace would be rolling over in his grave. What's up with this Carnival Day Maestro? There's nothing about Seth Rollins that's a baby face except the way he wrestles. His promos, the laugh, the prancing, the entrance. Like, you better thank God you were associated with Cody over the weekend. They probably booed you out of the joint. I liked the match. It felt like a Brock Lesnar finisher match, and it set the tone with McIntyre going for the Claymore right off the initial bell. I thought, man, that really set a tone here. I enjoyed it. The thing about Punk I loved in that promo from the United Center where Rollins is like, you know what I have to say? And he said, no. And then Drew is ripping at him. Are you not listening to me? And very calmly, well, I'm trying to, but I got headsets on and there's 73,000 people. You're going to have to speak louder. This is my moment. Yeah, then why are you making it about me? Just so calmly without the pro wrestling aggression, because that's the way people actually talk. And I thought McIntyre took a hell of a bump when Punk swept his leg out, man, and falling on that table. It was the only time the table didn't break the whole weekend. I think it went out 3 different times from different bumps. But, yeah, including on Punk's involvement the next night on Raw, I'm with Wes. He may not be as injured as we think, or the match may be coming sooner than you think, because they definitely kept him on television and involved. But yeah, I think this fuels McIntyre's character, them putting over. He won a title for the first time in front of fans for all of 4 minutes, and then Priest cashes in, which gives him more of a reason to complain. But kudos to McIntyre for the personality of going over to his wife and tweeting, bored at work.
Yeah. Yeah, who knew McIntyre had this great personality that he's shown for the last 2-3 months now? But yeah, I thought it was great because I think most people was like me, like McIntyre has harped on this. I won the title in front of nobody thing for so long. He's probably going to win the belt tonight, and that's going to give him something to feud with Punk about. Blah blah blah. So he wins the belt, and it's like, all right, well, that was a pretty good match, and that was expected, and okay. And then he goes over and he gets in Punk's face, and like Shane said, I'm sorry, I'm just a big Punk fan. I love his reactions to things, and I thought, well, okay, so this is a perfect response. And then when he swept the legs out from under him and starts going after him, I was like, okay, I didn't see this coming. Then he takes the arm brace off and whacks him with it. It was like, but as soon as that, as soon as that music hit, it's like, oh my God. Like, okay, a lot of people may have predicted that McIntyre was going to get the win to make up for his WrestleMania in the past. And a lot of people may have figured Punk would have, a hand in something, but I don't think anybody expected. Most people thought Damian Priest, if he's going to cash in, was going to try to do it on Cody and probably fail. But I don't think anybody expected him to walk out there with that belt to open the show. It was a hell of a way. I think Tyler said it best. That night was like, that was a WrestleMania moment, or maybe Wes said, I don't know. But somebody pointed that out and was like, yeah, that's, that was one of those things that it just happens at WrestleMania. And I was way more hyped coming out of that match for night 2 because I was so bummed out with night 1. I was like, man, I don't even know what this is going to be. And then after that happened, it was like, all right, here we go. Let's see where we're going. So where did we go after that?
We went to. We're surely going to have a lot to talk about of this match. Philadelphia Street Fight, the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley versus the Final Testament. I think I'm just going to go ahead and just get to it. I think the only thing that I remember from this match and the only purpose it served was to just get Bubba Ray Dudley involved and say get the tables and get people hyped. That's it. That's all I got from it.
If you did not interject Bubba Ray into that match, it would have no relevance whatsoever. None. I mean, I'm not saying some of the guys in that match aren't talented. They are, but I mean, yeah, that match is just like, we could skip this.
That's like a Raw. That's like a Raw or SmackDown match.
These are the kind of matches that you get when you expand to a 2-night event. When it was back to a 1-day, 3 or 3.5 hour show, this show would be pre-show or not on the card at all. I did enjoy Snoop Dogg's commentary, probably high as a kite, saying somebody's got to call the police. Like, you just don't hear that kind of stuff on wrestling commentary. He and McAfee were good. I did like Bubba Ray putting on the glasses with the tape, and then when he goes to go off the rope, and they're like, "Is it okay, ref?" And he goes, "Why that?" And he does it with him right with the spot. So that was some redeeming qualities for the match.
Oh yeah, Bubba Ray saved that match for sure. It was fun and it served its purpose. But yeah, you're right. It's filler because now we're filling 2 nights. It never would have made a 1-night WrestleMania card for sure. Yeah, that covers that. What's next?
All right. Well, we moved on to a pretty fun. I thought what was a decently fun match. LA Knight, AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went and got something to eat, but the finish. I mean, even though I don't like the guy, I mean, I said it before the show. Like, if you're going to continue to push LA Knight, and if he's going to continue to get the response that he gets, and I don't know how or why, he needed to win that match, and so I think they made the right call. I don't get it. I'll never get it. You can talk to your blue in the face trying to explain to me why LA Knight is over, but you can't argue with the fact that he is. Whether I like it or not, he's over. I mean, he is. But, so was The Rock and Austin, and I guess that's why he chooses to rip them off blatantly.
It's because he was the last pay-per-view opponent of Bray Wyatt, and we love Bray. That's why LA Knight's over. But I do think it's funny pushing him as something new. Spoiler. I mean, I guess maybe he's something new at 41 years old because AJ's 46, so he was giving up 5 years here to the older statesman. But I just feel like they better get it done with LA Knight in the amount of time, or else he's going to be in his mid-40s, and you start looking at him as a older guy. Now, the German suplex off the top rope, AJ's cooperation, be damned, that was a hell of a spot. And the right guy went over. I don't think AJ Styles needed this win. I really don't know what the future holds for AJ because he's been with the company now for a decade, or right at it, and not right at a decade, 7 years, but whatever it is, 8. Somebody will correct me. I think it was 2016. But yeah, his time has come and gone as far as on moving up on the stratosphere. I'm not saying AJ's done, but I mean LA Knight's time is now, for whatever reason, much like Sami Zayn, even though LA Knight has a far better physique, he gets people invested, and good to see them pushing someone like that. Because I do think under the Vince McMahon regime, LA Knight would have been peppered down the card and just forgotten about. Be damn what the crowd thought. So it's refreshing to see they listen.
Well, in the Vince McMahon regime, he got turned into whatever Dupree and pushed down the card, and then Vince went away the first time, and Triple H pulls him back in and turned him to LA Knight. So yeah, you already got a preview that what you said is absolutely true because it happened. But no, I've seen all over Facebook and different places today that AJ is quoted in some interview that apparently he did, I guess after WrestleMania, saying that he's in the home stretch, that he's getting ready to retire. He knows his career is about done because at the age he is, he can't continue to wrestle at the level he has, and he doesn't want to stay past his shelf life, which kudos to him, for being realistic. So I think you'll probably see some more of what you saw of, that was a good rub for LA Knight to get put over by AJ Styles. I figure he says he's looking for the one big storyline to close out his career, I guess, to literally finish his story. Let's just hope he don't choose to say that. Let's hope it's implied and not directly stated.
And I didn't mean to I didn't mean to interrupt you, Wes. What did you think about the match?
No, I mean you're good. I mean, I was actually not gonna say anything. So
I
I was gonna
apologize
act
for
like I was
nothing.
gonna say something. Did you
Hey,
start talking? I said he got me. So
going back to AJ, like and finishing the story, that's a match. I mean, let's. I think it'd be really cool. Throw AJ Styles in one last little main event, main event type of rivalry, maybe in one of these little filler times in between, Cody and The Rock. I'd love to see Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles. I think that would be a fun little match
It
there.
was weird to me. This feud, the roles are reversed. The babyface LA Knight goes to the heel's house and beats the crap out of him instead of the other way around. I'm like, the heel got nothing seemingly in this whole buildup, and the babyface won too. I was like, all right.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, wherever AJ said this, it was in a normal just interview, but kind of back to what we were saying about like the press conference. Like some of these things, I wish they wouldn't say publicly because now everybody's going to look at him through the lens of like, well, this may be the last feud. We know he's on his way out, so it kind of changes people's expectations of him, and they read something into everything he does from here on. Everybody's going to be like, well, is this the last one? But he's free to say whatever he wants to. It's not a big deal. Next, because we were me and Wes had talked beforehand. He's like, I hope we can get this over by like 10:30, and it's 10:37, and we're like halfway through night two. So Raw is
Well,
going to be a very very quick recap if we
we
get
got
to it.
we got Logan, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, triple threat.
Who wants to lead that one?
good match, weird entrance. I mean, I get to a degree why Kevin Owens comes out in that golf cart. Randy gets on. All that bull. But like, it just felt weird in the beginning. I mean, overall, I thought it was pretty good. I don't think it was great. Um, quite frankly, just my opinion, I think it was one of Logan Paul's like worst matches. Just my opinion. I don't think it was that phenomenal. So
Tyler?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Wes. I mean, it's nothing I'll remember from this night of WrestleMania, but I do think ultimately in the end the right person went over. I think Logan Paul was the right answer there, and I've grown to appreciate what Logan Paul is. I mean, at first I thought he kind of was, when he first signed there, I'm like, oh, this guy is kind of a joke, but I mean, he's really taken it seriously. He's become pretty good, so. Yeah, I'm excited to see where he goes from there. But yeah, other than that, I thought it was a decent match, not great, bright winner. That's pretty much it.
Shane?
Two things I feel you're always going to see in a Logan Paul match. He's going to do something acrobatic that wows you. How he did a swanton turned into a frog splash blows my mind. And two, you're going to see whoever is in the Prime Energy costume get shit canned. And this weekend was YouTuber I Need Speed, I believe I got his name right, who got canned. But yeah, he retains and he needs to.
I think the entrance deal was mostly just to drive home like the KO and Orton are kind of working together. They're the two baby faces, and really to drive home that like, oh, Logan Paul doesn't have a chance here. These two veterans are gonna, there's no way this rookie is gonna beat these two veterans because they're basically working together against him, type thing. I'm not gonna lie, like when Logan Paul first showed up, I don't keep up with all these influencers and YouTubers and all this horse shit. And so when somebody described him to me, I immediately hated him. Had no respect for him. Wanted to see him crash and burn and fail spectacularly. And once I saw his match with the Miz, and when you look at guys who are indie guys that have been in the ring for 20 years in some cases, 15 years over at AEW, and it's, botchamania every week, the matches this kid has is incredible. I mean, I've grown to respect that guy a lot because he's way better than somebody who's only had a handful of matches has any right to be. you know,
And
like him or not,
he's
he's
all like you
clearly
said,
working
like him or
very
not.
hard.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to touch on that. He's also okay with being the chicken shit heel. He
Yeah,
doesn't have to be the cool heel that beats your. He's okay with being the coward, and it gets heat, which is refreshing. Go ahead.
yeah. But he gets it. He gets the business. Like the way he's doing these things makes sense for that chicken shit character. Like you said, he didn't go out there and try to be a world beater and beat a legend like Randy Orton and Kevin Owens is fast becoming one. The way he got that win, with Kevin Owens taking the RKO and him shit canning Orton and getting that, splash. Um, I know a lot of his finishes are similar, but it's him taking advantage of situations. But I get it. No, it wasn't a spectacular match. But dude, if you break down how many actual matches that guy has had all together and just in full, and consider him having WrestleMania matches with Seth Rollins and SummerSlam matches with The Miz, and then out there with Orton and Kevin Owens. It's impressive. I mean, you gotta give the guy credit. So he can only get better. He's young. He's only had a handful of matches, but he's got all these followers, and that's what got him the contract. Was like, well, he's gonna have all these eyes on us. And honestly, he could be lazy and not have the matches that he's having, and they still would use him because of the Prime deal and all the eyes that he would put on the product. But he actually takes it serious, so I think that's pretty good. And as somebody had mentioned in the previous show, with SummerSlam being in Cleveland and he's a Cleveland boy and everything, I suspect he'll probably hang on to that U.S. title till then. Perhaps, I don't know, but I figure he'll figure into that show pretty heavily. He should have, I'm sure, a big featured match at SummerSlam. Next,
Io Sky and Bailey. Um, I'll touch on that. That one, this to me was the most obvious outcome of the whole card. And it was cool to see Bailey finally get that moment. The one thing I remember from that match is there was one really kind of scary spot where I was like, God, Bailey's gonna have to vacate this title tomorrow. It was when Io jumped off the turnbuckle and Bailey stuck her leg up, and it looked like it bent really weird. And then she was limping, and she got up on the turnbuckle and like went to go do that elbow, and she really, you can tell she really didn't jump into it. I was
yeah,
like, she just like really messed up that leg, but I think she ended up being she started getting better towards the end of the match after that moment. So it was a little bit scary when you first saw it, though. Like, oh
yeah.
God, that's going to be a terrible way to ruin that moment. But yeah, it was a pretty good match actually, and yeah, Bailey got her moment that she very has well deserved.
Wes,
Yeah, it was actually really nice to see a story be told because man, they built that whole thing with Bailey, you know, sacrificing so many times, you know, with that group. They betray her. She wins the Rumble. Now she's fighting her at Mania. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm with Tyler. I mean, it was obvious, but it was still beautiful at the same time because Bailey earns it. She. I was waiting on the like tube man to come out. Like I swear to God, I was like, dude, are they about to go like OG Bailey? On this, but no, it was fantastic. They definitely chose the right person, and I will also say I think that was also a Mania moment for sure.
yeah. Shane,
I feel like the fashion reporter at the Oscars because I'm touching on everyone's entrances, and I thought Bailey's Cleopatra Egyptian goddess was pretty darn cool. Io Sky does a tremendous moonsault. I mean, almost picture perfect. And I like that little wrinkle of doubt for the smart fans, though. You put this match on right before the main just to make you think they wouldn't change both belts back to back, would they? And they did anyway. Bailey did it the right way.
a lot of people complain when they think things are predictable. And, a lot of times they do things, like you say, because everybody knows that Bayley's going to win, and then everybody's pretty sure Cody's going to win. So are you going to do something to shake it up? But sometimes the right thing to do is just the right thing to do. And the story that's being told, this is the ending you need. And if everybody sees it coming, then great, So I'm glad that they didn't, do something just for the sake of shaking things up or to differentiate it from the Cody match or anything else. That was, it'll be a defining moment in her career. And, I'm happy for her. I mean, I know it's her best friend, but it makes me happy to know that, Bayley's out here winning the title at WrestleMania in front of a record crowd. And, that who I don't know, who seems like an egomaniac. Her old partner Sasha's over there, doing horrible promos and wrestling in front of a quarter-filled arena. And
CEO.
But Lord knows she's getting paid handsomely for it. So God bless her.
I never thought Sasha was that good.
I didn't either, man. I've never got it. I mean, I've seen her have some decent matches, but nothing to justify her seemingly diva attitude, no pun intended, and certainly nothing to justify any of the money figures that's being thrown around that Tony Khan's paying her.
So we don't get off subject. Her best match, in my opinion, was WrestleMania with her. Was it Becky Lynch and Charlotte?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Her best matches.
It wasn't because of her.
Yeah, involved one of those two.
Yep.
And when she strayed off away from them, it usually wasn't, great. But anyway, so we'll jump back to something real quick here that Ray had said a little while ago. He said it happens later, but did anyone notice Snoop Dogg's numbers for night 2 and the total attendance didn't match the numbers on the screen? Also, it could end in the number 420. So somebody forgot to tell production crew to change their number, and Triple H blamed Snoop as a joke in the presser. Yeah, I noticed Triple H pointed that out in the in the press conference. Despite what Snoop will tell you, the actual number was. So, was there any more matches after Bayley? I forget.
Yeah, the big one.
Let's let Wes lead on this one, since I know he was. I'm sure he cried like a schoolgirl that just got her first period whenever this match played out. That's why he shaved his face and recognition.
I'm trying to feel dashing,
Oh, okay, that's working. Good job.
Don't start crying on us now.
No.
Okay, well, so while you're trying to find the words, whenever Cody comes on the screen and then Brandy shows up, I looked at Rosie and I said, he's turning heel. It's a swerve. Brandy's there. The crowd's fixing to shit on him.
No, so like 2007, Cody Rhodes comes to WWE and has his run and just had a trial of different things. Was fucking Stardust, dude. I want the WrestleMania to look for that motherfucker. Couldn't find him.
So
I'll look for him.
Not to interrupt you, but let's look at something right there. Let's back up to it would have been a Backlash or a Payback or some random ass pay-per-view. I think it was one of those Paybacks. I don't know, but there was a pay-per-view that was the Shield, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns with Dean Ambrose in their corner, taking on the Rhodes brothers with Dusty Rhodes in their corner. Cody and Goldust with Dusty in the corner. I mean, could you have imagined then that fast forward a few years and that from that match, Cody and Roman Reigns would be wrestling for the main title and that Reigns would be on the run that he's been on for the last, couple of years? I wouldn't have been shocked to hear that Reigns was going to be a top guy. And I've always been a fan of Cody Rhodes, just because I was a fan of Dusty and I was always a fan of Dustin. But I mean, if I sit here and told you now, like, oh yeah, Cody, if I'd have thought back then Cody's going to be on top of WWE, never in a million years, man. I mean, not anything against him, but just because of, Vince, and he's not big enough and he doesn't fit the mold, and, he's a little bit lispy when he does a promo and all that. So, to your point, from there to here, Stardust is in the main event.
But I mean, so what I'm getting at, Cody, I mean, I want to make this very clear. And I text my brother this that night because the same WrestleMania, I was looking for Stardust. Roman Reigns main evented against Triple H for the title.
Yep.
Roman won. They booed. I'm not talking like he's a heel boo. Like, dude, you fucking suck. We hate you. Why are you even in this match? You know what I'm saying? Like, just absolute hate. And it was hatred. And I think Tyler, you remember it too, because I think we had that group chat going on at that time. And,
I hated Roman back then too.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it was just, dude, the whole time people walk. But my point is, we can talk about John Cena coming in. We can talk about the Usos coming in. We can talk about Solo, The Rock. We can talk about Undertaker. We need to talk about Roman Reigns and Cody. Because, man, Roman did a fantastic job and did such a good, and is still going to do a good job. Absolutely. I'm so glad they finished the story. It's over. It's done with. But I'm looking forward to this new era of WWE. And it wouldn't surprise me, and you can quote me right now, 4 months, Cody loses the title. I give it 4 months or less.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm predicting it right now.
So back to what I said about Bailey a minute ago. Regardless of how big a Roman Reigns fan anybody is, or how much of a hard on anybody's had for the Bloodline storyline all this time and all that, the fact of the matter is, regardless of how you feel about Cody, but the story they've told, Cody's story that he's referring to, the fact that he was the mid card guy, he was Stardust, and he went and he left, and he went and became a star on the Indies, and he created AEW and all this, and then he came to WWE, and somehow the fans managed to get behind him, and they actually buy into all this. He's the first babyface because Roman Reigns, as you just pointed out, Roman Reigns was supposed to be that big babyface, and it blew up in their face. And time again in the past many years, when the fans would go, "Oh, that's who they want us to cheer." Nah, we're not doing that. We'll cheer for this guy over here, the Daniel Bryan story and all that. They've had to start getting creative on how they backdoor people into these babyface positions. And somehow Cody Rhodes has been able to be an actual babyface. Not like John Cena where the crowd's been split every week and anti-hero like Steve Austin or even Punk to some degree in the past. He's been the closest thing to a legitimate real babyface. He had to win the title Sunday night. He had to. If he hadn't, he's dead in the water as a babyface. And how goddamn long can Roman Reigns stay the champion? And if not Cody, who the hell could you ever had justified ending that title reign? If Cody hadn't done it, then Roman Reigns just might as well be champion till he fucking dies, because there's nobody else that you're going to build up in this perfect storm that you have for Cody to do it. There's just not. Let's bring Brock Lesnar back and have that match for the 5 millionth freaking time. No. If not Cody, who the hell is it going to be? And I dare anybody to tell me right now, anybody that's on the roster or foreseeable that's would have been the likely candidate if Cody had lost Sunday night. Who? And how long were people going to continue to? I mean, The Bloodline story was great, but it had jumped the shark. It had gone completely off the rails. When they did that stupid ass swerve where Jimmy fucked Jay, it was done. The Bloodline story had jumped the shark. It was pretty much done. And I'll sit and argue anybody who wants to about how, it would have been fucking great if The Rock would have wrestled Roman Reigns. For a small portion of people who love those two, maybe so, but it wouldn't be a great story. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. It would not have been a
feel like
great
I'm
match.
getting
It wouldn't have been a
called out.
great match, number one. And if anybody watched that match Friday night and can tell me that The Rock versus Roman Reigns would be a great match, you are full of fucking shit.
Wow, Gene just cut a promo on me.
It's not just you; it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. You're the one on the screen that represents that portion of the audience, but that's a lot of people.
No, you made a solid point though. I mean, yeah, there. That I said in the group chat. I said I think I just see WWE right now as there's nobody that's on that level of stardom where like if Roman Reigns beats Cody Rhodes with how much fan support Cody Rhodes has, you legitimately can't have him lose to anybody other than like you just can't. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I'm not the biggest Cody Rhodes fan, and I do think those split crowds are coming in about 4 to 5 months. But I don't think he's going to be totally hated. But I do think a portion of them will get tired of it. I've said it. It's been well documented. I just find some of Cody Rhodes' delivery and just antics a little bit cringe to me. But that's just me. But
I mean, I don't disagree because I've told you right here on this very show that I feel the same way about a lot of that stuff. But I'm just saying, mass response and merch sales and everything else point towards most people don't feel that way.
Yeah,
and they had to strike now because you're right, they are going to turn on him because inevitably they turn on everybody eventually, especially the more popular they get and the more they go, oh, this is what they want us to do. Well, we're not going to do what they want us to do.
Right.
And Cody's going to make an awesome heel when it comes time because he already seems like a heel. Like if somebody hadn't watched wrestling in 20 years and is like, tell me about wrestling right now, and you're like, okay, well, the guy who just won the title, he comes out, he wears these suits, and he uses these big words. And if you describe, he shows up on a bus with his picture on the side. If you described everything about Cody without any context, they'd be like, oh, so he's the heel. Mm-mm. No.
Right.
He's the babyface.
You
if
could
you
even
showed
say
him and Seth Rollins, like you got these two guys over here, The Rock and Roman Reigns, who are fighting for the respect and the love of their family and the honor of their family, and you got this one cross-dressing weirdo who cackles like a freaking psychopath, and then this guy in the suit, and who's tries to talk over everybody's head. It seems like it's completely flipped, and I think in 6 months, if you wanted to, you could flip it and do the match, do that whole thing again in different roles.
Now, you make a good point. I have a real life example of this. I have a friend last night who tuned into Monday Night Raw for the first time in a long time. I told you this because he just heard the whole thing about the Attitude Era is back and this new era, and it's not the Attitude Era. But anyway, that's not the point I'm trying to make. He tweeted me and was like, why does everybody hate The Rock? He's like, I thought The Rock was loved. It's kind of weird to hear everyone hates him. And then he was like, this whole thing about, this whole Cody thing where they're showing this video and everyone's boo-hoo crying and stuff. He's like, why do they like this guy? And I'm thinking, so this is a, exact example of what I'm talking about as far as of what you're talking about is, this guy, he kind of presents himself a little bit like you would think you would hate him. I think the most heel thing that Cody has is that gaudy neck tattoo. That right there is the most heel thing. But as far as the match goes, after I had a day to kind of take back in what exactly happened, in the moment I'm like, this is dumb. It makes no sense whatsoever how they did it, like bringing back all these people. At the end of the day, I was acting like, I kind of acted like those smart marks. Like, let's just enjoy the moment. It was WrestleMania, and it's at its best. You bring back these. It's essentially, bloodline rules. Cody knows he's going to get jumped, so in my mind, I'm thinking to make it make sense. Cody assembled all these, legends, and it's like, hey, come help me. And John Cena made sense. He had history with the bloodline. I was kind of open for Stone Cold instead of the Undertaker coming out, behind the Rock, but that was still cool nonetheless. Crowd went crazy. And then I did think it was cool the little bit of a story that they told with when Roman had the chair and they had Seth in the Shield suit, looking the other way. And Roman could have hit Cody with the chair, could have hit Seth with the chair. And seeing him in that Shield suit brought back the memories from years ago, and he nailed him in the back, and that ended up being the downfall of Roman Reigns when Cody got him. So yeah, I do. You'll never believe I would have said this, but the right person won, and it was actually fun in hindsight, looking back at how they did it. I thought it was cool. I was really expecting, though. I don't know. I feel like the whole celebration at the end was kind of neat, but it felt very long and drawn out. I felt like the crowd was into it, but then once it was on air for a while, I'm like, they're just kind of sitting there what is going on?
Shane?
A lot to unpack here. I'll try to be brief, but that probably ain't happening. To touch on something you said, Gene, I remember in Chris Jericho's book when he talked about Jim Cornette and Smoky Mountain Wrestling, said these exact words: sometimes you have to give the people what they want. You can fuck them and you can fuck them and you can fuck them some more, but eventually you have to give them what they want if you want them to keep coming back. That's what Cody and Roman was Sunday. You had to do it. You just had to. And I think of that. I also think back to some people I want to take some shots at for criticism online. Well, if they won his bloodline rules, why didn't everybody jump Cody from the opening bell? One, dipshit, it's Cody and Roman. They are the main event, and they were allowed to work 22 minutes before the first interference. They were given a chance to showcase one-on-one. It's also called building tension. Are you telling me if Uso, Cena, and everybody else came out at the 30-second mark, it would have meant as much as it did at the 32-minute mark? Absolutely not. Those same people, though, are complaining, well, it was overbooked. It's WrestleMania again, dipshits. If you're going to pull that, you do it in the WrestleMania main event, not a random Dynamite in the middle of April on a Wednesday when it means something. I love the progression. One Crossroads, Uso. Two Crossroads, Solo, Cena, stared at. And for the Stone Cold thing, I'm with Tyler too, but I think so many people were disappointed. I thought it was supposed to be Stone Cold. Don't believe everything you read online. I'm not saying that towards Tyler, but I think people get so hyped up about, well, they said, well, who's they? Dave Meltzer? What the
He was
fuck?
on
We
the
don't know.
semi truck. His face was
Yeah.
on the semi.
So I like that it was Taker because one, you didn't expect it. And two, if you don't get Stone Cold and The Rock's the final boss, who truly is the final boss at WrestleMania? The Undertaker, the guy with the streak to end it. I saw people complaining the Undertaker wasn't part of the celebration. No, because his character's always been special. You don't have him out there shaking hands with Teal Runnels. He's the Undertaker for a reason. That's why the lights didn't go off on Cena's entrance and they did on Undertaker. But I digress. I liked it. The entrances were cool here, much like you with Brandy. I went, oh no, please don't have her accompany him to ringside. Thank God she stayed at the entrance. I liked Cody's little skull mask there. They got to the ring a hell of a lot quicker than they did Saturday, where it took 19 minutes for everybody to get in the ring and do this. Who knew Roman Reigns on the way out would bust out a fisherman suplex, a perfect plex? I damn near came off the couch. I'm like, whoa. Some people were like, I thought he couldn't wrestle. I was like, oh, he can wrestle. He just ain't never done that move before. I was like, what's next? A sling blade? But the thing on Seth Rollins, I hate that people had to tell me that. I think that's the one thing they missed on commentaries. They didn't put that over. When I heard the music, I thought it was Dean Ambrose. The more it built up, I was like, did they get him to come out here? Because you're not seeing anybody. Then when Seth got hit, I was like, man, he got shit canned night one. He got shit canned against McIntyre, and he got the quickest shit can of anybody who ran in here. But if they had put that over where Roman would have stared at him with Cole saying, oh, this is where it all started, Roman's turn when Seth did it, I think it would have held more gravitas that we knew he went for Seth rather than Cody. You talked about the finishers, and I guess I'm nitpicking here. Roman Reigns took 6 crossroads total in the match. 1, then 2, then it took 3. But I get it. After 3.5 years, I just digress. A finisher should be not called a triple finisher. It should only take 1 to finish a guy. But in the set, in the situation, yeah, I don't have a problem with that as much. The post-match celebration, Reminded me 30 years ago in '94 when Brett won, and there's Diesel and Razor and Tatanka and Randy Savage. All the baby faces are out there. I thought it was even cool Bailey was out there. A part of me did think, would Randy RKO him right here in front of friends and family? To see Bruce Pritchard on my television screen in 2024 was
Yeah.
pretty cool. The story about tracking down the watch that Dusty had, I want to go on record right now. Bruce Pritchard didn't find that son of a bitch. It was Conrad Thompson who manages to unearth every artifact from wrestling. I'm sure he and his crew are the one that got it. But the thing that stuck with me, the shaking the
Conrad
hands,
had it.
yeah, bringing out Triple H and Bruce. But for Michael Cole, the emotion to say, damn it, I love pro wrestling, not sports entertainment. And for Pat McAfee to say, pro wrestling is back and it's beautiful. What a bow on that match. What a bow on the storyline, everything going forward. And to wrap it all up, what I'm saying, if Cody had not won, we would not be talking about this new era that we're all gushing over
No,
on social
it'd just
media and
be
in person.
it'd just be business as usual. We're still doing what we've always done. Um, yeah. So as it was happening, okay, the Usos, you knew those two were going to get in. And then when Cena come down for Solo, I'm like, okay, so now this makes more now it makes more sense why Cena was having matches with Solo now. Like that was the tie-in; they already had it planned, I suppose. But then the Undertaker, I was like, that's kind of a stretch. But my theory on that is you had The Rock win Saturday night because you're building towards The Rock and Cody for the future. Who else on earth can just drop in out of a helicopter, so to speak, choke slam The Rock? Everybody accepts it that, yeah, he could get away with this, and then just disappear. And there's no aftermath. There's no well, now there's got to be a feud. Now there's got to be. No, there's no explanation. He's the fucking Undertaker. He showed up. He choke slammed him. He neutralized The Rock, and then he just left. He wasn't hanging out there like your dad would be so proud of you right now. No. But if you think about it, had it been Austin, I don't know that would have been a good thing because, okay, yes, Undertaker can choke slam him and he can disappear. But if Austin would have come out and stunned somebody, he's going to be out there drinking beer. It's all of a sudden, it's going to be about Austin in the aftermath of the celebration. It's going to be at least equally Austin and Cody, if not all Austin. Undertaker, it's easy for him to fade into the background and be kind of forgotten, and we focus on Cody. If Austin's out there, it's going to be more about Austin. So I don't know if they made that call intentionally or they just couldn't get Austin or what. But honestly, kind of like Tyler, after thinking about it through the day and seeing some people post some pretty lengthy explanations of the relevance of the Seth coming out with the music and the Shield, and Roman looking at Cody, looking at Seth, looking at Cody, and they're like, this mother, and go ahead and hitting Seth and basically choosing his own fate. I mean, that's pretty clever long-term storytelling right there. You gotta tip your hat to that, So, I think the end of night 2 with the Bailey win and the Cody win and everybody, I think it made up for night 1. I think overall it was a good WrestleMania weekend, and it's a fun direction we're headed in. And if Cody loses this thing, like Wes said, 4 months from now or 4 weeks from now, it
That's
happened when it mattered.
That's my only tidbit, though. With The Rock coming out on Raw, our story is just beginning. You pretty much just telegraphed that Cody may not lose this thing till SummerSlam or whenever Dwayne can get free, and I just didn't like that as much.
Well,
For the
he
most
made it a
part.
point to say, even if you're not the champion, we still have more to tell. And of course, the all-knowing, all-powerful Dave Meltzer has already stated that they're not going to wrestle till WrestleMania, and that Cody probably won't have the title by then. But he's talking out of his ass. He don't know if it ain't something he's getting related directly from AEW. He doesn't really know what's going on.
It feels like SummerSlam to me. It feels like SummerSlam's the right timing, and I don't care what you say. I think next year WrestleMania. I think if Rock wants to hang around, I think we might get Rock and Roman then. And I think fans will be more receptive of it then, because I think in between whatever happens at SummerSlam you can plant that whole thing of whatever, however Roman and Rock get the rift. Rock say, Roman, you couldn't get it done. Maybe Rock beats Cody at SummerSlam. I know that people would hate that, but
But maybe Roman Reigns spears The Rock, and that's how Cody beats The
correct,
Rock at SummerSlam. And now
right,
you got The Rock and Roman with all their story from that and the bloodline, but there's no belt involved unless they want to wrestle for the People's Championship. You know,
right.
um,
That's what I see happening. I feel like I know just as much as Dave Meltzer nowadays. So we'll
yeah. I
see.
mean, just claim you have some inside source, and you're as good as him because he ain't got any more. I think people from WWE just feed him bullshit to make him look stupid at this point. I really do. But okay, so we're not going to go all through Raw. We're past 11 o'clock now. But I do want to say that I thought that the promo with The Rock and Cody was fun, and it kind of it shows this. You said something earlier about your friend watched it and he said he's shocked that people hate The Rock. I think that's the thing is like I don't think anybody really hates The Rock. I think it's all with kind of a wink and a nod of like, okay, we know that's what we're supposed to do, so we're going to play along. And Rock even kind of plays it that way because just in this promo alone is a lot of what Shane was talking about earlier, where it's like 1 second he's heel Rock, and then he would drop out of that and cater and play to the crowd, and then he would go back to being a heel. So he was in and out of it a lot in that promo.
Yeah, and the smart fans know, like, he obviously played a large role in that, in the story changing from what it was originally going to be. I don't think anyone really, I don't know, I don't think anyone really anticipated that everyone was going to revolt that bad against it. I think, and this is, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but you don't have Cody win the Rumble. I don't think fans revolt as much as they did. So, yeah, I think Rock played a large role in that. I think smart fans know that. So, yeah, I think you're right. It's just more of Rock is a heel. He called everybody in Philadelphia last night the largest collection of trailer park trash,
And they popped initially.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know what this documentary is going to reveal, but like you said, with Cody winning the Rumble, and Punk said in his interview that prior to his injury, the plan for WrestleMania was him and Seth. I don't know that this was as big of a pivot as they want us to think. You know what I mean? How I said earlier about how they've learned over the years they kind of got to backdoor their way into some of these things to get the reaction they want. I don't know if somebody like Triple H wasn't smart enough to go like, all right, look, we can't just come straight ahead with this because people aren't going to boo The Rock, but they love Cody. So if they feel that Rock's stepping on Cody's toes, maybe if we play our cards right, we can make them think that we're catering to them rather than us. You know what I mean? And that may be overthinking it. That may be reading way too much into it. But man, that whole element of Cody winning the Rumble makes no sense if the plan was always Rock and Roman and originally was going to be Punk and Seth. Unless they were going to interject Cody into that and it was going to be a triple threat with Punk, Seth, and Cody since the Rumble came down to Cody and Punk. I could see that being a possibility.
The thing, that documentary drops tomorrow on, it says YouTube, so we'll have to check it out when we get time to talk about it on Sunday. One thing, I know we're not getting into Raw. Really, the only thing to take from Raw, in my opinion, outside of Jey Uso being the number one contender, what did Rock hand Cody Rhodes? Anybody have any predictions?
I've seen some funny memes of different different things, but nothing serious. The line of "never break my heart again" after he hands it to him is interesting. So yeah, who knows what it'll turn out to be.
The chant of "this is awkward" when they exchange belts made me laugh so hard. I was like, because you did come out and just bloody this guy, trash his family, trash his mother, wipe the blood on the belt. And it's like, do you mind if we exchange titles? Fine, but only if I get to hold yours. I'm like, what is this? I'll trade you my Twinkie for your donut at recess? I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
You can touch mine if I can touch yours. Yeah, you can take that one both ways.
I think
Is
the
it?
dumbest prediction was MJF's ring. Like, why would Rock have MJF's ring? Like,
Yeah.
I don't,
Who knows? But yeah, I think because initially I didn't see it. I only saw the memes where I just saw The Rock holding the belt, and then one where Cody's handing him the belt. I didn't realize they had swapped belts, but I was like, man, that kind of naive, stuff is going to be the thing that starts to take Cody down the bad road because it's kind of hard to respect that. People like that dude beat you half to death
and you
on
let him hold your
Raw,
belt. Yeah.
bloodied you, beat you with a belt, was gonna, talked about your mama, and now you're just handing over your belt to him. Like he looks like a dipshit in that instance. But since it was a swap, it didn't look as bad as I initially thought it was. But
Yeah. I don't.
they're gonna have to watch themselves though, because he's walking a fine line.
I don't know
and
what.
the audience is not as patient nowadays. The Hulk Hogan boos in 93, 94, 95 will come rapidly for Cody Rhodes in the path they're going.
The chase is when everyone's behind. Everyone's behind them when they're chasing. Now the story's done. Now it's like, what do you do from here? Um,
I mean, that's always been a problem in wrestling. I mean, I think I've brought it up here before, but like everybody wanted to see Sting beat Flair, and then once he beat him, it's like, okay.
it's on to
And
the next thing.
they really didn't have any good heels for him lined up, and it fizzled. But over the years, you can look at a lot of instances where people were super behind a babyface to win, and once they've won, now what? So I'm kind of like Wes. Like even if that's not the intent right now, even if they intend for him to have a long reign, if they start realizing like, man, they're only behind Cody when he's chasing, when he's after something, they may have to take the belt off him just to put him in that. Just as long as you don't call it a story, let's not ever have to finish the story again. But
Let's go finish the chapter.
for Cody to stay over, they need to have plans. Absolutely, I agree. Exactly. No heels for Sting, no heels for Warrior. They get the belt with no real plans. That's another great example too. Warrior. Everybody was well. I can say everybody, but most people were excited when he beat Hogan, and then he went on a run of just meaningless title matches, and
6-man tags with the Legion of Doom.
yeah, yeah. But I hope for the best, and I think the Triple H era has a lot of potential. As long as he don't spend too much time patting himself on the back and letting other people, do it for him. And I don't know. I was really hoping. Last year, everybody was bummed out about Cody losing, and then they did the big thing with Brock, and it's kind of like what? But then he come out on top in that feud, and I think that did a lot for him. I was hoping something big was going to happen on Raw that would kind of show us where we're headed with him. But I guess we did kind of have to put Rock on the back burner and get him out of the way. And so maybe next week, in the weeks to come, we'll see something develop. I hope he's. I do want to say this real quick though. I I felt terrible for Seth Rollins at the end of WrestleMania. I mean, if you think of his WrestleMania weekend, how Friday night went, how Saturday went, he gets beat at the beginning, he just gets laid out. He shows up in his Shield deal, and he just immediately gets laid out. It's like that poor bastard had a bad weekend.
I
Like
heard he's getting like he's taking like 4 weeks off or something like that.
I don't blame him, man.
Yeah. So he'll
One
be.
week for every ass whipping he took this past
Exactly.
week.
I
Yeah, he
hope he
had a
goes
black.
shopping and gets some
He
new
had a
gear.
busted eye. He had a busted eye from something.
Poor dude. But no, I think, and just to recap a couple things real quick, then we're going to end this. But I think I'm not a fan of Damian Priest. I could really care less one way or the other. But having Punk, the fact that McIntyre has dunked on Punk so hard, and Punk really wasn't in a position to respond in any way. For Punk to attack him and then cost him the title like that puts so much more heat on the feud and kind of equals it out. And that's going to be a hot feud. They didn't need that belt involved. They didn't need the world heavyweight title. It's a feud based on their personalities, based on people's perception of Drew. Really, I prayed for this. When he gets injured and costs him his WrestleMania, that's a stiff remark. So I think that'll be one of the hot feuds going through the summer to carry us to SummerSlam. We'll get somebody for Cody. Damian Priest may not be champion by the time this time next week. Who knows?
I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm not super excited for Jey Uso, Damian Priest. I don't really know what they're gonna do there.
No, I agree. Well, all right, guys. Appreciate everybody jumping on here on a Tuesday night. I know we were all kind of excited to talk about WrestleMania. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Appreciate Matthew Glover and Ray Russell joining in on the chat. And we will be back to our regularly scheduled program this Sunday night live at 9:30 p.m. And we'll talk about what happens on SmackDown. We'll talk about what this documentary reveals. And we'll talk about whatever Tony Khan airs tomorrow night that he claims to be backstage footage that he's implying is going to be the altercation between CM Punk and Jack Perry, who technically neither one work there right now. Punk literally doesn't work there, and Perry's off in New Japan or whatever. We're not going to go down that road right now, but to me, I think it's one of the stupidest things ever.
I can assure you it'll be disappointing. That's all.
Whatever it is, even if it is the real footage, it's going to be disappointing. Just because
this is Tony Khan's Wrestling with Shadows.
It's so stupid because even if they draw 2 million viewers, the narrative's going to be okay. So Punk drew you one more rating. You should send him a check because you didn't do it, And then what's the return? You got one big rating one night off of showing that. And I mean, I assumed it was just going to be a heel spot for the Young Bucks to do a bait and switch and do some kind of parody or something. But now the Meltzers and Alvarez's of the world have said, no, we've talked to him. We've talked to Tony. Tony says he is showing the actual footage. So now they've removed all that. So now if it does turn out to be a bait and switch after they promised everybody it won't be, he's going to look even stupider than he was going to begin with. And that's saying something. I don't get the upside. I really don't.
By the way, speaking of Tony, when Punk took Cody by the hand and paraded him around the ring, I said, my God, Tony Khan is doing a line of blow right now, a mile long, seeing those two at the end of WrestleMania together.
Yep. And then meanwhile, Ricky Starks and Dustin's up there in one of the luxury boxes watching on and cheering Cody on. And AEW contracted wrestler Brody Lee Jr.'s in the ring for the celebration. So, because the kid literally does have an AEW contract, but apparently it doesn't prevent him from appearing on TV for the WWE. So that's good. And I guess hopefully now everybody can get over this, hey, MJF's going to show up on WWE any minute thing, because I'm pretty sure if he was free to leave, he would have showed up on Raw last night. I'm pretty sure that dude's tied up till at least 2027.
And isn't it odd timing that Dustin Rhodes gets a shot at the champion non-title? Another Samoan with the first name Joe.
God.
We get a Joe versus a Rhodes again.
Tony Khan is so bad. He's just sad. It's not even fun anymore. It's just sad.
My prediction for just before we go, my prediction for the footage is he has not said that it's CM Punk Jack Perry. He just said it's from this historic All-In weekend that set all these records. I feel like it's just going to be some behind the scenes look, like everything that went into that show, all the high fives and handshakes and everything, and it's going to talk nothing about Punk and Perry. That's just what I think, and it'll be a typical disappointing Tony Khan announcement.
He could easily get away with that if he hadn't had his sheet writer buddies going online telling everybody, no, he's showing the backstage fight. I mean, they stated, I never listened to Meltzer and shit, but I actually listened to it because I wanted to hear exactly what they said, and Meltzer's like, no, Tony Khan told me directly he is showing the backstage altercation between Jack Perry and Punk.
And what do they hope to accomplish? Are you going to bring Perry back in as a truly hated heel? Because if you show it, the lines have been drawn. We're going to say, yeah, Perry had it fucking coming. Or, yeah, Punk got tired of this shit and did it. However you work, you're not going to change someone's narrative,
And
about what's happened here.
you can't pay it off. You can't do anything with it. There's no match to be made. You can use it for that scapegoat character, whatever the fuck that is, or means, or whatever. But there's no payoff for it at all. And it's funny to me that you look at, and whether it's real or it's all completely made up, but you had all this perceived heat between Punk and McIntyre, and between Punk and Rollins, and all these different people, but yet they're able to put that inside, make money, and do angles, and appear on TV together, and be professionals. And meanwhile, these dipshits couldn't even sit down and have a conversation with Punk to try to find a way to work after Brawl Out. And now they're wanting to make an angle out of it 9 months later when he works for the competition.
They could make something out of this if they hired Trey Stone and Matt Parker to do a South Park reanimation of what happened and paint Punk as the most in-your-face, awful bad guy. And poor young Jack Perry had to do what he had to do and beat his ass. And you come off of that, clearly not the real footage. With the Bucks bringing out Perry, we're laughing at you. You may say that's stupid, but they're grasping at straws anyway. So why not?
Yeah. It's like I was listening to Cornette on the way to work this morning. Cornette's like, so, what are you going to say? Like, one of WWE's main event stars choked out one of our little jabronis and in real life. Like, yeah. And Tony got scared for his life. And
the only way I could see it totally benefiting AEW is if what Punk said as a line is like Jack Perry choked out CM Punk, and then in which case we'd laugh at CM Punk and it would be hilarious. But I don't.
And there's no way. And there's no way that's true because they would have already showed that footage months ago, and everybody in AEW that didn't like Punk would have been telling that story, and that story's never been told. And there's no NDAs for that with that ordeal. So that's the thing too, is like there may be some details of Punk's story that may be proven wrong by this footage, but it's not going to be anything outlandish like Jack Perry got the better of the situation or Punk got knocked out or any of that, because they would have jumped off. They would have broke their neck to tell that. Plus, they would have kept Jack Perry on TV. They just sent him out there the next week. I'll whip Punk's ass and send him out of here. So, I don't know. But anyway, whatever it is, that'll be a fun topic for Sunday night. But we got to get out here because Fort West looks like he is just about to check out. And I'm right there with you, man. So, all right, folks. We appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate you guys getting on here. And we'll see you Sunday night. And one more thing, don't forget, April 27th, we are back at Atomic Johnny's. Tickets are only $10. Come out 8 p.m. It's going to be all your favorite main event comedy guys. 3 of the guys on the screen right now, along with the beloved Delbert Jenkins. And we're going to be joined by Mr. Joe Odom, Austin Church, and Kenny Henson, 3 funny comedians that's never been to Gadsden before. It's their Gadsden debut. So don't miss it. And join us Sunday night at 9:30 p.m. for another exciting edition of the Main Event Comedy Podcast. We'll see you then.
Hi, hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
50% 1980s Saturday Morning Wrestling, 50% Mystery Science Theater 3000, 100% not as good as either one. The Outlaw Wrestling Federation presents OWF Worldwide Wrestling. Please join me, broadcast Bob Anderson, and my co-host, Whitey Jenkins, as we call some of the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest wrestling action from the nicest backyards, bingo halls, county fairs, and volunteer fire departments across these United States and around the world. Each and every Thursday, only on YouTube. For more, go to officialowf.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school, but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all. And all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling. Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.